This is Election Law Review, Part 1. Um, this concedes to the fact that this cannot be a detailed discussion of election law. You are encouraged to pause the video anytime to refer to your specific discussions in your election law, but also reference may be made from previous lectures in this review course. Specifically, you go back to the discussion on the Commission on Elections, composition, guarantees of independence, powers and functions, and the likes. You're also encouraged to go or required to study the party list system, how party list representatives are elected into office through the party list system. The Atong Paglaom case specifically focus on that. Also go back to the matter of the electoral tribunals, the PET, the SET, the HRET in Constitutional Law 1. So when you speak of elections, it is the embodiment of the popular will, the expression of the sovereign power of the people. So this is what empowers the people in their control over who should govern them, because sovereignty, according to Article 2, Section 1, resides in the people and all governmental authority emanates from them. The people are responsible for the people, the officers that they vote, regardless of the consequence of their voting. Such is the world of democracy. No, people's choice, the popular choice, becomes what should be followed, regardless of the consequences of their choices. People anyway are not helpless if they make wrong choices because they have subsequent elections, among others. Okay. Who are considered as qualified voters in the Philippines? They must be citizens of the country, not otherwise disqualified by law, 18 or of age, no, of age, as specified by law, who shall have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year and in the place wherein they are supposed to vote for at least 6 months immediately preceding the election. No literacy, property, or other substantive requirements shall be imposed on the exercise of the right to vote. So always remember the concept that your place of residence is your place of domicile. Even if you are away for work, education, service in the armed forces or in the AFP, may be confined or detained by a government institution, you do not lose your residency. You shall not be deemed to have lost the same. No? Your original residence or domicile is fixed. In fact, on the matter of the counting, also on the period of residence and of the age, there is the reckoning point, no? Which is the day of the election. Those who, on the day of registration, may not have reached the age of majority, or required age, sorry, the required age, or the period of residence, but who on the day of the election shall possess such age requirement, such qualification, including the residency, the residency, such a qualification, they shall possess such qualification, they may register as a voter. So, kung hindi ka pa of age, hindi mo na pa naabot yung period of residency, but on the day of the election, counting back, pumasok ka doon sa required number of months or the age of 18 generally, then you can be deemed to be qualified to register. No? So, domicile versus residence, we understand very well that when you speak in election law of residence, it means domicile. Go back to the case of Gallego versus Vera and Romualdez versus RTC. On the definition of domicile, domicile denotes a fixed permanent residence to which, when the person is absent for business, pleasure, or like reasons, this is the place where he intends to return to. So even if you have so many condominium units or apartments, you only have one domicile. You can have so many residences, but you can only have one domicile. And domicile is what constitution, the election law refers to when it speaks of residence. Disqualification, those who are sentenced by final judgment to suffer imprisonment of not less than 1 year, you're disqualified to vote. Those who are judged by final judgment by a competent court or tribunal of having committed any crime involving disloyalty to the duly constituted government, such as rebellion, sedition, violation of the firearms law, etc. Um, those who are insane or incompetent, as declared by as such by a competent authority, because they have no discernment to vote. No? So registration, a citizen is required to register before you can vote. While you may have all the other qualifications to vote, if you are not registered, you are still disqualified to vote. The personal filing of the application of registration of voters shall be conducted on a daily basis in the office of the election officer during regular office hours. This is what you call the system of continuing registration. There is that continuing registration except 120 days period, um, the 120 days period before the regular elections or 90 days before a special election, walang registration. Pwede bang magkaroon ng extension of the registration? No way, sabi ng Akbayan versus Comelec. Kasi napakahabang panahon ng binigay, continuing registration nga. Remember that the law aids the vigilant and not those who slumber on their rights, because the right to vote is not at all absolute. So law restricts the period of registration. If you cannot register within the period where continuing registration is conducted, then you cannot vote. You cannot invoke the right of suffrage when you have failed to register or make it during the last hour. No? Absentee voting is also possible for those who are out of the country. All citizens of the Philippines, even those who are dual citizens, who are not disqualified by law. You are 18, may register as an overseas voter. What you need to do is you file your application for registration in person at any post abroad or designated registration centers outside of the post in the Philippines. No? Normally, this is the consular office. Consular office. So who are disqualified from absentee voting? Those who have lost their Philippine citizenship. That's the general rule. No? Those who have expressly renounced their Philippine citizenship, well, generally, you are deemed to have lost your Philippine citizenship naman if you renounce your Philippine citizenship. Those who are have convicted or committed or are convicted of by final judgment of an offense punishable by imprisonment of 1 year, including those who are committed and been found guilty of disloyalty, rebellion, and so on, firearms law. An immigrant or a permanent resident who is recognized as such in the host country unless he executes an affidavit that he wants to resume physical residence in the Philippines. No? Any citizen of the Philippines abroad previously declared as insane, or incompetent because again of the lack of uh, discernment, lack of discernment. The matter of the inclusion and exclusion of voters who may file, it could be the COMELEC or any person. COMELEC may file a verified complaint with the courts, no, to exclude or include the voter. Any person whose application for registration has been disapproved may file an inclusion, no, or exclusion. Any voter or representative of political party or or the election officers may file for an exclusion of voters. The filing period is anytime except 105 days before a regular election and 75 days before a special election. That's for inclusion. For exclusion, you have 100 days prior to a regular election, 65 days special election. Procedure, you have in exclusion petition to include. For exclusion, a sworn petition for the exclusion. Pinagkaiba is sa exclusion, may qualification talaga na the petition should be sworn. No? And the support for the inclusion of voters sa petition is the certificate of disapproval. While for exclusion, the proof of notice required by the law. No? Intervenor, any voter candidate or political party who may be affected by the proceedings may intervene and present his evidence. No? Sinasabing, isang boto lang naman yan eh. Yes, isang boto. But that voter could also be a candidate for an elective post. So they may disqualify a contender or a party may disqualify a candidate by excluding him from from being a voter, and eventually he becomes disqualified to run for office. No? So the decision shall be based on the evidence presented and in no case rendered upon a stipulation of facts. These are special rules. If the question is whether or not the voter is a real or fictitious, his own appearance, his non-appearance on the day of the hearing shall be prima facie evidence that the challenged voter is fictitious. So those are the special rules in exclusion or inclusion of voters. The list of voters may be annulled by the COMELEC upon a verified petition of any voter or elected election officer or duly registered political party. And after notice and hearing, they may annul the book of voters that is not prepared in accordance with the provisions of the Voters Registration Act. Or it was prepared through fraud, bribery, forgery, impersonation, intimidation, force, or any similar irregularity. No order, ruling, or decision annulling the book of voters shall be executed within 90 days before the election. Okay. So in Espaldon versus Comelec, the effect of padding of votes, no, even if the padding of the registry list of voters yet to annul all the votes of an election would be to disenfranchise the good or valid votes. So the Comelec is not the proper forum, not nor is it the proper ground for a pre-proclamation controversy. Padded voters list, massive fraud, and terrorism is clearly not among those issues that may be raised in a pre-pro controversy. In at best, they are an election for an election protest. Okay, so the padding of the list is not a ground uh, to annul the votes because it will affect those legitimate voters. So the activation of registration is also possible. Those who have been sentenced by final judgment, 1 year, no, a judge by final judge, a judge by a court having committed a crime involving disloyalty to the government, insane or incompetent. If you did not vote for two consecutive elections, your votes, your registration may be deactivated. Those whose registration has been ordered excluded by the court, and if you have lost your Philippine citizenship, your registration may be deactivated. Let's proceed with this in the next video.